So, welcome to the Keepers of the Library podcast number 10.
Yeah. And this week, it's a Halloween special.
Yay! So I'm going to have to bust my ass because we are recording this at 3:44 on Halloween Day.
Yep. Bust your ass. This is so hard.
I know, my life is terrible. So you have Michelle. That's me.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, and Mimi, I'm here too. Joshua.
Right. And we also have a special guest this week, which I'm super excited about.
Yep. So
we found her through one of the forums we peruse. She also does some fantasy erotica, so we've done a little promotion together, and that's kind of how we, not met, but asked her to come on the podcast. So, without further ado,
here's someone I think all our listeners at Dark Nest are really going to enjoy.
E.K. Sabbins.
Hello.
Hi.
You can call me.
Hi.
You can call me Emmy.
Hi, Emmy. So yeah, we go by J.E. and M.K., but it's Joshua and Michelle. That's cool.
Awesome.
So this is our first interview podcast. We kept trying to do it, but then every time something came up and I was still working during the day, and that's when most people were available for some reason, and I don't know, apparently people have kids and lives and husbands and stuff, so they're kind of busy. So now I'm free during the day, hooray, so we can finally do this.
Yeah, life is great.
Yes.
And I'm excited. It's my first podcast ever.
Yay!
Welcome aboard.
So why don't you tell us about yourself, all of our awesome listeners?
Well, I am an erotica writer like yourselves. I've actually only been doing this it'll be a year, and at the beginning of this December, it'll be a year that I've been publishing. But I've been writing erotica, honestly, since I was, a minor. I just was, shoving it in the proverbial drawer, all my life, thinking, no one cares about this stuff. And then suddenly there was Amazon book porn, and I was like, what the fuck am I doing not publishing what I write? So I started publishing what I write, and it's been so awesome, and I now do it full time, and it's
awesome.
I don't know, it's awesome. It's literally like a dream come true. Even when I have days where I feel like this is the crappiest, I'm like, wait, I've published porn. This is beautiful. So it's
That's
awesome.
Awesome. So you're kind of in a similar situation as us. We started out writing. First we started writing naughty stories to each other when we were dating long distance.
Oh my god!
On loose leaf.
Oh yeah. Handwritten dirty stories.
And then we started writing fan fiction when we were playing World of Warcraft, and then we stopped playing World of Warcraft, but we kept writing dirty stories, and then we realized that we could sell the dirty stories, and
yes,
this is our life.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm kinky, and people hate talking about that stuff face to face when you're young and awkward. So I would just write these stories and give them to my boyfriend and be like, "Do this to me," and that would always work. That would always work.
It's kind of the same with us because we met online, so we initially started talking typing. So now we have problems talking sometimes because we're so used to typing at each other that it's just sometimes it's I'll sneak out from the bedroom and type a message and then go back in the bedroom. It's ridiculous.
That has not happened in 10 years.
It's I don't know. It's still sometimes.
That's adorable. I think that's adorable, but I grew up with computers, so I think it's great.
Now it's usually just we'll turn off the light and then we'll talk, because if you can't see each other, it's not real.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I've actually been talking to a lot of people recently who it's kind of a similar story. They all felt so confused about their sexuality when they were younger, and so they started writing or reading fan fiction and stuff like that. Apparently this is how our generation has figured out their sexuality is like through fan fiction and shit.
Well, then that's much better than like mainstream porn though, because fan fiction is like, fan fiction is literally like the Garden of Eden when it comes to diversity. Like if you wanted to talk about genetic diversity of plants and stuff, versus like a corporate field of monoculture that is mainstream porn. So I would rather that our sexualities are growing out of that far more diverse ground. I think that can only do good for us.
Yeah, well said.
Yeah, it's one of those funny things, too, because you kind of realize how many of our fetishes and stuff just aren't achievable in real life. Like, mpreg and stuff is, like, such a huge thing, and, like, you know, futanery is really big on Darknest and stuff, and it's just there is no real-world equivalent to these things. And it's so funny because, like, our minds are just so interesting that they fetishize things that can't even happen.
And people will go to a long amount of suspension of disbelief to like while they're immersed in the fantasy. I used to do phone sex, and people would call in, and the place I work for, you didn't have like a consistent character. You just did whatever the caller asked for. They're like, oh, sure, we have a girl that is just like that. And then they would connect you with a little description. And I will tell you that people ask me to be unreal things that cannot exist and to do things that physically cannot be done. And I don't mean body postures, like things that are physiologically impossible. But they were totally immersed in those fantasies. And it was fascinating, just like having a window into people's like completely unadulterated fantasies, because you're not going to pay like $4 a minute to not get what you want.
Yeah.
So it was just like mind-blowing.
It's always funny, like on there's one site that's like earn lunch money or extra lunch money or something like that, and it's kind of like Fiverr except for adult stuff.
Okay.
And so people are able to, like, request, like, short stories or photos or, like, Kik time or whatever. And, like, some of the things that people are offering up and that are, like, really highly, like, recommended and stuff are just so bizarre. Like, you know, not even just, like, degradation and stuff like that, but, like, stories that go along with the pictures that just don't make any sense. And, like, oh, I'll write you, like, a 500-word story where this'll happen, and it's, like, the number one thing. And I'm like, that's not it. All right, you go for it. You make that money.
And sometimes it's things that don't even seem sexual to me, but people clearly get a sexual thrill out of it. Like, I found a fan fiction once of, like, people being wrapped in, like, saran wrap, and literally that was all that happened, is people were wrapped in saran wrap, but it was obviously written as fat material, even though nothing happened. But, it, you know, that's fine. It's just not, I couldn't write that because I can't wrap my mind around what's going on there, but I can totally appreciate that someone likes it. That's awesome. But
I think it's supposed to be, like, the constriction thing. Because, like, they've actually made, like, really expensive devices for you to be
like
able to do that.
Like vac beds and stuff.
Yeah, like, those are, like, $3,000+ and people are buying them and loving them and stuff. And it's just, like, there's people who are making a living off of selling vac beds. Like, same with, like, Bad Dragon. Like, there are people making, like... There's an office full of people who are just making dragon dildos. Like, this is their life. This is the thing they do every day.
They're very popular.
Like, they're huge.
It's not even, like, on a certain level, it's not really that new. Like, there was bondage fairies when I was a teenager, and people always showed it to me because I was into fairies and I was kinky. But she had sex with insects, and that's disgusting to me because insects are just gross. They're the grossest thing in the world.
I love insects, but I don't think I want to have sex with them.
Yeah, and they're like the same size as her. Like, I'm not judging it. I'm just saying, me personally, phobias. But
yeah,
like
that's like
she had sex with other like weird monster creatures, and that was interesting and awesome. And it was a comic.
I mean, I've read some stuff with insects on Darknest, and I've just been utterly fascinated by how in-depth they get into descriptions of this stuff. But I don't think I could say I find it arousing.
Yeah, sometimes I read things just because it's interesting to me, and just finding out something out about, like, other people's minds and how they work and how they, like, view the world is really interesting.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, oviposition.
Yeah.
It's a big one. where these insect monsters basically are laying eggs inside a host woman. Or
Yeah, and then she has to lay the eggs. It's like a big thing, apparently.
Yeah. I find that fascinating. I could read it, but I don't think I get anything sexual out of it. I just like, wow, the detail you put into this. It's magnificent in its own way.
Breeding element has an appeal. I guess. Like, I don't know. Yeah, that is interesting. And all that detail, although I would probably be so freaked out reading it.
Yeah. I like being freaked out, though. I got out of this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
fair. Well, isn't that the appeal of, like, the entire Alien series?
True. I mean, yeah, H.R. Giger, he was all really weird sexual imagery and his freaky stuff, and he designed the aliens.
Oh, yes. That whole is so, like, artistically well conceived. I don't know. Like, it has, like, a whole statement throughout the whole thing, and I love that whole...
Yeah. But if you actually look at, like, H.R. Giger designed the alien itself, like, he did up the art that was, they based the whole design off of. But his art is always filled with, like, penis imagery and vaginas and stuff like this. So if you look at it, everything he does is just this really bizarre, grotesque, sexual stuff.
Yeah, and the meaning of the machine and the biological form.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
And that was very freaky.
There's also in Darkness, like, I mean, I like, non-con stuff. I'm sure nobody listening is too shocked. But, like, on Darkness, there's a bunch of 3D artists who are, like, amazing, and they do really good work. And they do a lot of, like, non-con stuff, but when they do non-con stuff, it's usually with, like, really hideous, unattractive, like, either, like, gremlin-looking things, or, like, little, like, goblins, or, like, ogres, or something like that. Like, it's really, like, disgusting, and they're drooling, and they look, like, really, like, mash-faced and, like, long-nailed and stuff. And it's, like, for me, that's never been the appeal. But apparently, like, it's even more, well, I won't say even more, but apparently in, like, fantasy circles, that's even, like, a big thing, is having, like, really grotesque, horrible looking things, like, having their way with this pretty woman. And I'm just like, huh. So that's what other people are into.
I get the whole, like, monstrous primal thing, like, the whole beast nature thing, but I don't know if I'd go for, like, goblins, although I guess that depends on your interpretation of the word goblin. I don't know, I can kind of see the appeal. But I'm a little bit like, oh yeah, okay.
I like them to be, like, not good looking. Like, I like them to be monstrous, but, like, to still have some of the, I mean, I guess it would kind of play into the whole alpha male type, they're large and dominant and attractive in kind of a twisted way.
Yeah.
And it was a big thing for a while. Like, we were talking about was it Taken by Bigfoot? Was it?
Yes.
That was, like,
by
a huge
Virginia
thing.
Wade.
Yeah, by Virginia Wade, who's an extremely lovely person.
She's awesome.
And that was, like, huge. It was in, like, national news stuff for a while. It seemed to be a very big thing. Haven't really heard much about it now.
No, because of all the publicity, Amazon cracked down on it again and made it harder to find, and it's just become such a hassle that I think Virginia's effectively, like, given up on trying to get it out there.
Yeah, I think a lot of people have. It's hard, especially when Amazon decides to, like, arbitrarily censor things and they don't have any explanation for how or why, or, like, what is wrong with it, how you could fix it. Like, they don't tell you anything. They don't communicate with you. There's zero transparency.
And I don't even think they communicate with each other, because then you see some where it's like a picture of a porn star, which is obviously just screen grabbed from, like, a movie or something. So they don't have the rights to the cover. I mean, it includes, like, fucking my daddy's brother type thing in the title. And then it's, like, just filled with, like, keywords and stuff. You open up the book, it's clearly been, like, just put through some crappy, like, translation program. And it's like, that's fine. You see that, and that's up there forever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then other people, I mean, they can't get like a romance novel pushed through because it has too many taboo themes when like, I mean, I don't think anyone would really mind if there were rules and everybody knew of them and they were applied consistently to everybody. But right now it's like there's certain authors who are getting like hit unfairly, and then other people who are just able to do whatever they want because they're flying under the radar.
So
yeah, and I think it has a tendency to fall mostly on the writers.
It's gone to the wayside. It's going to be a very tiny niche from now on, or is that something that could undo? I know a lot of people are into that in Darkness and stuff, and obviously it has a market. If only for a while. If it was just a fad, perhaps that's always a possibility.
Yeah, I think if people are into that, like when it comes to people's kinks, those things, they're mutable. I'm not saying they're inflexible, but if people like a thing, they're not going to stop liking a thing because they stop knowing where to find it. They're just going to look for somewhere else.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's kind of, I mean, it's hard when you're trying to make a living off of it because the places they're going to find it are places that won't sell it. So, I mean, then they'll have to turn to free sites, and then people who want to write them, if they want an audience, they're going to have to write on those free sites because they can't sell it anywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, Darkness is a very, obviously we have a lot of authors there, budding authors who are just putting their stuff up for free. That's what we did years and years ago before we realized you could sell it. So you have people putting up that hardcore stuff, their monster erotica, rape erotica, the incest erotica. That's popular on Darkness, like a lot of these like little like sites, and but you can't sell it.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of doomed to be a thing that it's only done by enthusiasts with no hope of making it into a living.
Yeah.
Well, you guys have actually totally sold me on checking out this Darkness website, like even before we started the podcast. Because it totally, I'm honestly really surprised. I've never actually stumbled there completely on my own because it sounds like I love non-con, I love monsters, I love tentacles, I love edge stuff, like weird out there, crazy written porn. But I've never found it. I'm kind of flabbergasted. I'm disappointed in myself, actually, in my own, like in a clear inability to effectively use my Google Foo to find where I need to be on the internet.
Well, that's another like huge problem, and I mean it's the same problem on Amazon and on all of these big search sites. Is they kind of have to assume certain things in order to have these algorithms created and to like decide what you see. So, I mean, sometimes on, like, Amazon, I'll look for a title, and they'll give me something completely else. Like, Josh once was looking up one of our books, and he found, like, a book on Obama, and it was the #1 search result, and he had searched for it by title, and I can tell you that Obama is not publishing a book by our titles.
No.
So, like, they're making the assumption based on the popularity of Obama's book that, because we use certain keywords or something, that book is what we were actually looking for. And, I mean, Google does the same thing. They base it a lot on popularity and exact search terms. And, I mean, you pretty much have to be, like, a master of, like, search engine optimization in order to... be found.
I mean,
with adult stuff, it's especially bad because with Darkness, almost everything is hidden behind the membership wall. It's a free membership, but still, it's all hidden for the sake of maintaining some privacy. And of course, when it comes to fan fiction too, there's concerns about like being pestered by big companies and whatnot. Where you can't write dirty fan fiction about this and that. So like people want privacy and they want to post their erotic stuff without it being plastered up on every search engine. So then that also makes it harder to find because I think the amount of content and stuff like this and how often it updates all affects how likely you are to show up on a Google search. And whereas I think pretty much the only thing that shows up on the front page of Darkness that it doesn't require a membership for is like these podcasts and like the announcements for weekly stories and special
like
features.
There's very little that you can see without a membership. And I mean, it's good for our members' privacy and all that, but it does make it harder to find people because you're not able to use that search engine stuff.
And that's probably why I haven't found it before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, it's in a way, it's like looking into the future of taboo erotica, where you can't advertise it. Even if you are allowed to sell it, it's going to be hidden away back behind, filters and everything else. And so the only way anybody ever hears about it is through word of mouth.
That's actually a thing on, sorry. That's actually a thing on the K boards right now. They just enacted a family-friendly policy, is what they're calling it. However, it's not to be friendly to families or friendly to people who are at work or anything like that. The only reason they're doing it is in order to continue making money off of their advertising, off of like Google AdSense and stuff, because they won't allow certain things on sites that have like adult content or whatever. It's still okay to talk about gore and violence. They specified that, but it is the erotica and the romance and stuff that they're cracking down on again.
So are people literally not allowed to discuss that they're publishing? I don't. Kboard seems like drama to me. So I don't post on there.
Yeah,
but does it actually, like, are you forbidden to talk about publishing erotica there now?
You are allowed to talk about it, but you are not allowed to, like, we couldn't have a candid conversation about, say, what kinks sell. Or you can't have your cover if it's sexually explicit. Again, they kind of caught some flack because of the fact that they are basically policing female bodies more than males because of how our society works. So they're basically saying that, like, a woman who looks a certain way or has a certain look in her eye, if you have that on your cover or in an image, you're not allowed using that. But, if it's a topless guy or something, then it's not so bad. And so there's a lot of people who are really upset about this because they're calling it family friendly when really they're just trying to make their advertisers happy.
Yeah.
And then, of course, they're enacting these unfair gender standards and, policing something, again, that is mostly done by women for women.
Right,
Yeah.
And something they're perfectly willing to make money off of themselves.
Oh, of course.
By letting us all put our content there.
Yeah, and K-boards, they don't allow you to use your affiliate code for Amazon. They use their affiliate code. So every time anybody links to Amazon on K-boards, that's going through their affiliate marketing. So they are making money off of these romance books and these erotica books every time somebody clicks through. And yet they realize that, they make more money off of their Google Sense or whatever, and now they're cutting back. And I mean, it is, and it's just, you kind of look and you see it everywhere. It's been happening probably since, 97 or something, where, like, at first, the internet was just, like, porn. Like, everywhere you go. And there was no real filters. You had to click a button saying you were over 18, and that was it. But now, like, ever since then, they've been cracking down and cracking down and cracking down and trying to push this erotica away. PayPal and other, like, big vendors won't take the money from people. Like, they won't allow you to have a site that sells it, sexually explicit stuff.
Yeah.
They use PayPal. Then the processors that do allow you to sell adult content, they take a much heftier fee. I think, like, some of them are up to, like, 20% off of every transaction. So, it's... And they can do that because there's just so few options right now because everything's so puritanical.
Are you fucking kidding me? I was seriously combing through the user agreement for Etsy to find a place to sell my rape porn. And that's sad. Like, you can sell rape porn on Etsy. That's what I learned. But then I sat back and I thought, who's looking for rape porn on Etsy, though? So you're not going to actually sell it there.
That would be great if you could manage that, though.
Yeah.
I sell rape porn on Etsy.
Yeah. Yeah.
You could do it just for the ability to say that. That alone might be the Twitter handle that just sends it.
Yeah.
But yeah, Etsy will probably, if anybody ever did start doing that, they'd probably crack down on it too. Like, it's probably not there just because it hasn't been an issue.
But I will say, though, in my studies of Etsy, I also found a latch hook rug that was a still from a 70s gay erotic movie that was explicit. And so, but it was amazing. It's worth mentioning.
Yeah,
got it right.
I've actually found custom floggers and stuff on Etsy as well, like people making like painted or wood decorated floggers and stuff.
They seem pretty
found
cool
some
with
Pokemon
explicit
badges.
stuff, but I do think if it became like a huge hub of like rape porn
Yeah.
well, and by porn I mean written like word porn, but
Yeah.
I think became like a hive of it, they would shut it down for sure.
Yeah, probably.
Rape porn, like the actual videos and stuff, like even when I know it's simulated, I can't watch it. I just get too squicked out. So that's why I prefer like the written stuff, because you know for a fact nobody is hurt. In videos, there's always kind of that like little nagging fear, like maybe it's not, and then I kind of feel like it's 8mm.
I doubt it.
Really squicked.
I'm totally with you. Well, one of the first erotica books I ever read was Delta of Venus, which is it's short stories, but it's pretty explicit and it gets into lots of very edgy stuff. So I was exposed to that, and it was in the public library. I don't know. So I was exposed to it when I was a teenager, and I have always thought that stuff was hot. But I've always like, every time someone's like, "Oh, video," I'm like, "No, picture, no." I'm like, "No, written. It needs to be written. It really needs to be written." Because some things they bridge ethical lines a little, you know.
I'm not the rape fan in this partnership here. I've done it. I've written rape erotica with Michelle for like over 10 years, and the entire time it was.
He hated it.
I just did it to please her because I knew she liked it. In this relationship, I like to please her as much as I can. Aww. So, I did that for over 10 years, and just as I started to like it, or not like it so much, but I just kind of started to get past the point where it used to kind of like gross me out every time. They banned it on Amazon, and I couldn't write it anymore. But you say about come across in the library. When I was in high school, one of the books they had us read, the English teacher got permission for us to read, I think it was a Jeffrey Archer novel, in which one of the main characters' sister was raped to death.
To death?
To death, yeah.
Oh wow, that's intense.
I read Fly Away Paul, which had a pretty explicit rape scene, like a gay rape scene.
There's so much good literature that got published in the past that if it came out now, it could never exist. We would never know who so many amazing authors are if they came into the market now. And it's really sad because you think, well, who is the Anais Nin of these days? We'll never know because she's just getting banned. She's not soaring to the top of some chart somewhere.
Yeah, that's why I kind of feel bad for I'm not sure if you've heard of I think her name's Lily White. She did Courtesan book. I can't remember exactly, but it got banned on Amazon.
I remember hearing about Courtesan.
Yeah, and people were rabid over that. They loved the story, but there were, of course, people who found some of it upsetting. But I find a lot of my favorite books are upsetting.
Well, life's upsetting. That's part of why art is sometimes upsetting, is because when art upsets us while we're actually safe, we learn how to deal with being upset when we're actually not safe. And it helps us. It's part of how we deal with emotions as human beings. We need art to challenge us because it prepares us to be challenged, and it also makes us think and understand ourselves better. So, and even if it is just for fapping, there is art to it, because you have to make a good fap, you have to make a good narrative, and a narrative is an art, so you're done.
Yeah. For doing the whole rape erotica thing, I found it a kind of cathartic experience for me, that it was something that helped me with a lot of my own issues with violence, and that to actually write that, and I was particular about I always wanted to do it in a realistic way that didn't dance around the issue.
It wasn't the bodice rippers. It wasn't but she really wants it deep inside. But it doesn't matter. He doesn't know she wants it deep inside. He's still forcing himself on her. Yeah.
That was important to me, and it was that was one of the themes that we always kind of did, and that limited a pool of people who actually wanted to read it. But there was an audience for that, and I think that message meant something to me, at least. Yeah. Not everyone's going to take the same thing. Authorial intent doesn't mean a whole lot,
but it makes us feel a little bit better. But I think the problem with, this influx of, like, self-publishing and stuff is just that Amazon and other vendors, they don't know us. Whereas, like, they kind of feel like people who are with traditional publishing have kind of had their personality vetted a bit. And so they feel a bit more comfortable with the more hardcore stories because they know, oh, well, you know, she's published with this big publisher and she's had to go through, like, with an agent and get this worked on and, like, edited, and she must have gone through a lot of, like, time and effort with this publishing house. So they know her, so they know that this is a safe person and that she's not actually, like, criminal or something like that. And I kind of feel like a lot of the hesitation with Amazon is because they don't know us and they think that perhaps, you know, we are dangerous or
one of us is going to kill someone or commit some crime, and then the headline is going to be Amazon rape author commits rape.
Yeah, basically. I think that's what their underlying fear is.
Well, I think you touched upon, I think, what at its core is that, like, yes, Amazon doesn't have the desire to want to go through all the content that, of course, you know, self-published people are going to put up. And so, you know, they don't know, of course, if you're someone who has putting up something with any, I guess, artistic merit, whatever the hell that means, or if you're just someone who's slapping up something as a very, like, glorified, like, pro kind of gruesome act thing, and that's what they're trying to avoid. So they're just big, over enthusiastic.
Yeah.
Like,
well, because back when KDP system first started, like, getting up, there was, you know, the infamous book that changed everything, which was basically a how-to guide for pedophiles to, like, molest children. And Amazon initially came out saying that they will not be censoring anything and that every book is fair game. They quickly rescinded that. However, I mean, that book, as far as I'm not a lawyer, clearly, and I'm not entirely familiar with American laws, but I do believe that instructions on how to harm another person are illegal. Like the anarchist cookbook or whatever for a while was banned and stuff like that because it instructed people how to, like, cause others harm.
Right.
And I don't think that's protected speech, but, like, I mean, there's such a difference between, like, a how-to guide to, like, rape somebody and just, like, fiction.
Right. And there's no one involved. Like, there's literally no one involved in creating a work of fiction that's actually on the line. You know what I mean? You are not going to be hurt by writing someone being traumatized. It's never going to hurt you.
Yeah, and I think, like, especially, like, the rape fiction and stuff, it is such a huge kink for women. And, again, like, women are the number one reader of, like, romance novels still. Like, you know, the audience primarily is women, and the authors are primarily women. And so it just kind of feels like, well, you know, we are not typically even the people who are going to be doing this. Like, we are not the people that you should be concerned about. This is just, for most women, I mean, I find that it's just kind of, as Josh said, like, catharsis, like a way of dealing with this horrific, terrifying thing that nobody wants to happen to them. But
we do have to spend a bit of time thinking about avoiding.
Yeah, and so it takes up, like, such a portion of your life to, like, think about this and to worry about it that I just think it's kind of normal to begin to, like, fetishize it as a way of coping.
I also think that just generally, and like, in regards to the whole BDSM romance trend, I think generally women are objectified quite a bit without their consent in our culture, and so the idea of being, like sensuously seduced and turned into and like objectified on, like, romantic sexy terms where you're gonna get, like, treated like an awesome girlfriend and also you're gonna get awesome sex and amazing orgasms, that seems pretty okay versus the random objectification I'm gonna get, you know, walking to work whether I try to avoid it or not.
Yeah.
I was actually thinking about that yesterday because, like, I was walking down the street and like I had seen like this Imgur post the other day saying, "Oh yes, I'm a girl and I dress like this because I want to be stared at." But I think the thing with most women, and you know, I might get some flack for saying this, is women do tend to want to be checked out by guys that they want to be checked out by.
Yes.
Like, you know, we don't want to get hit on by that 75-year-old man with no teeth and, like, a huge beer belly who's not wearing a shirt and has a terrible sunburn. Like, we want to be checked out by guys that we're checking out.
Yeah, well, and that it's not bad to wait for her to send the first, at least, nonverbal cues, because then you know she's going to be a little receptive.
Yeah, and, like, I was thinking about it because, like, some people get really upset by that. Like, they just, I don't even know how they can imagine that it's discrimination or something like that, or how women are so shallow because they only want to be checked out by, like, good-looking guys or something. But, I mean, like, that's how the animal kingdom works. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
the birds and stuff, like, they have their whole mating ritual. They don't do that for, like, any random asshole. Like, they do it to, you know, the people that they're attracted, the birds that they're attracted to. Like,
Yes. And it's, well, and guys are the same way. Guys are the same way. Because, okay, my boyfriend is oblivious to attention from females. So whenever he gets checked out by anyone, I'll be like, she was checking you out. Like, no matter what. And then he'll be like, oh, like, if she's not someone that he equally is attracted to, he, like, literally doesn't care. So it's not, and I don't think that's odd. It's just, that's an observation of it. But I've seen so many guys react the same way. Like, that's just how people are.
Josh is the same way. He has no idea. Like, I'll tell him, like, oh, yeah, she was checking you out. He's like, oh, I guess I didn't notice because I wasn't paying any attention to her because I'm not at all interested in her. I'm like, oh, okay.
Wow, that's your impression of me?
You told me, like, exactly that.
God love him. We've been together long enough that he can be like, oh, look, there is a boy you like.
Yeah,
and I'm like, oh, yeah, he's cute. Thank you.
We would be the same if there were cute boys here.
Yeah.
There's not many.
No. We were in Ontario, though. We went to Toronto a couple months ago. And, I mean, we were in Cuba before that. And, like, yeah, he was always like, oh, hey, look. Point.
Nice.
We're
Nice.
staying at our hotel room was across from the beach outside of Havana. And it was just like, I'm just like, holy hell, come look at all of these ripped guys with no shirts on. You're gonna love this.
And then after like 2-3 hours of me staring, he's like, I'm starting to get a bit of a complex.
Aww. No, she loves you. She loves you. It's obvious. Even over distance in the Skype and everything.
Oh no, it's not that. I've been trying to bulk up for years, but I have digestive problems. I can't process protein. I just can't get that big ripped upper body physique.
Oh, that I understand.
It's purely jealousy.
Yeah.
I've been trying. I love Battlestar Galactica, and I want to wear those nugget tank tops and not look like a total loser. But I cannot build my arms enough that I don't just, every time I put them on, I look at myself, I'm just like, you'll never be a nugget. And, like, I feel awful. You could never fly a Viper like this. It's upsetting, but let's just keep on that rowing machine, and someday I'll be there. Okay, sorry. Total nerdy moment.
No, it's always a good time for a Battlestar Galactica discussion, yeah.
Yes, I love that show. I'm watching it, the whole series, through for either the 6th or the 7th time this week. So,
Oh wow.
Yeah.
It's possibly my favorite show.
We're not allowed rewatching it because there are certain shows where, like, even when I'm rewatching it, I will just get so engrossed.
Yes.
And so I will stop doing anything, and I will just look at the TV, and I will stare there until there's nothing more on the TV, and then I'll kind of look at Josh and wait for him to put on the next episode, and then I'll go back to the TV, and I will just not do anything. Like, I won't even, like, exist except for watching that TV show.
Yeah, so if we were to start watching it again, nothing would happen at all work-wise or life-wise until it was done. So it's banned.
Battlestar is banned on writing days, because I never write when Battlestar's on. It's just so good. I just watch it. So I sometimes if I'm like just doing promotional things or I'm doing updates on stuff like on my blog software and everything, then I'm just like, woo, let's just watch Battlestar where we're doing the TV things. Yes, Gaius Baltar, you're a bad man. I will punish you.
I love his long hair.
Yeah.
I love his long hair.
Oh my god.
I grew out my hair just to imitate him.
He does really good now.
That is a totally admirable desire, is to grow your hair out to imitate Gaius Baltar. I fucking love I don't remember what season it is, and I'm sorry if this is spoilers for anyone, but the one point when he has the awesome relationship, like the poly triangle with the two Cylon chicks. That's fantastic.
That was fucked up.
He was like the worst and best character ever. I loved him.
Yeah.
I also feel like he's in love with Six, just like as a model, and I think that's both really fucked up and beautiful at the same time.
I think he, like, because he's such a, like, cunning and smart man, I think he appreciated that he didn't see her own intelligence and her own scheming and stuff.
Oh, definitely.
I think he appreciated, like, how much smarter than him she was. I think he's kind of a bit of a sub.
Yes.
Oh,
I
totally.
think he's an interesting kind of like switch where he naturally defaults to alphaness, but when someone can get the upper hand on him, he absolutely relishes being like a sub, and I totally see that. And I feel like he didn't even love her until she tricked him, until he realized that she tricked him.
Oh yeah, he was just like using her because she was sexy, and then he's like, oh wow, you like are the worst person ever, and you totally like fucked me over and pulled the wool over my eyes.
And now I love you. And now I love you. Betrayal as the inspiring act of love.
That sounds like one of our fucked up characters.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's beautiful.
So, not to change the subject, but
Okay.
to change the subject, are you doing NaNoWriMo this year? NaNoWriMo?
I really wanted to, and I'd been planning to all year, and then I was in that stupid car accident, and I just haven't been able to get my word count back up where I don't think I'll just disappoint myself. But I am going to try to keep a consistent word count goal throughout the month. That is my new daily word count goal that is realistic, and stick with it throughout the month and be super consistent, which is really hard for me. So in a way, I'm doing my own little mini nano. So
Yeah, that's what we usually end up doing because we always write together, and NaNoWriMo says that you cannot write together.
Screw them.
We
That
always
sucks.
kind of like cheat because I can't write by myself very well. I don't really have a lot of interest, but this time I am going to try to finish a contemporary novel, which I'm hoping will not be totally terrible. Contemporary kind of scares me. I don't know what to do with condoms. I don't know.
Yeah? Okay, sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, that's okay. I was just gonna say, like, I always find myself getting, like, so distracted by, like, wait, like, I'd be worried about this. I'm like, that worry isn't very sexy. Do people want this worry in this book? I don't know what's happening. Because, like, all of the contemporary I read is, like, super fucked up. Like, I mean, these are stories about, like, broken-ass people who are, like, just kind of limping along in life, and I love that. And I don't really get the whole appeal of the happily ever after and stuff. I'm the worst romance author in the world, and I admit that.
Oh, yeah, that's a hard thing for me to wrap my head around, too. And like, certain kinds of characters, I just can't get into them. I'm working on a historical it's historical, but like I really think of it more as vintage because it's in the 20s, which is really not that far in the past.
Yay!
We did a story in the 20s.
Yay! The 20s are so awesome.
We did a murder mystery novel set in the
Erotica.
20s.
Nice.
Yep.
Very nice. That sounds awesome. And this
A
has
lot of sex.
like BDSM and like alpha male kind of themes, and I like writing alpha male so much better in a historical setting than in a contemporary setting. Like I won't lie.
I know, because it like actually kind of like makes sense a little bit more.
Yes. Like, if I met a guy like that now, I'd probably just want to punch him in the balls.
Right? I just feel like it's really skeezy. Like, I mean, I like, you know, a
I like
dominant
it
man as
even.
much as anything, but it's like, I don't know, it skeezes me out.
I like alpha males, but when they're in a contemporary setting, I don't like them as much, and it's that. Or like in paranormal, like the whole, you know, shifter alpha male, that obviously that's always fine, but
Yeah.
I just feel like he's so out of context in like the modern civilized world, you know,
Oh,
and
yeah.
maybe that's
for
the appeal.
sure.
That's like the billionaire thing. Just is what really gets me. The alpha billionaire thing. Like, firstly, it's so absurd. Like, one of the other authors we're friends with wrote a
Hey,
blog
Vivian
post about it
Bain.
where I've been ranting about it ever since 50 Shades came along. Just that, like, I always joke the show. Like, my rule is that you can't have a billionaire unless they're the villain. Like, I just can't visualize a billionaire being anything but a horrible villain. Because how do you have billions of dollars and consider yourself a decent human being? I don't get it. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me. And then for that person to be, like, a domineering alpha person, like, pushing themselves onto a woman who, you know, not only has less physical strength, but is obviously, like, you know, if this guy's billions of dollars, he has the kind of wealth and power that, you know, could destroy anybody, let alone this woman. And it's fucked up to me. And it's, like, in a really real kind of horrible way that, like, you know, you have to deal with assholes on the street every day. You have to deal with, you know, rich people kind of, like, ruling over the lives of everybody else in a very callous way, where their decisions have, you know, huge repercussions for all of society. You know, like, to sexualize that, then just like, ugh.
Yeah.
Right. But I think it's a good reading of the fact that, like, our waking lives are absolutely at play in our fantasy lives and our dream lives and our subconscious, you know what I mean? Which is why the stories are also varied. Because everybody sort of has their own mix.
Yeah, our stories are just weird, though, because we always make the billionaire the villain, and he's a horrible person. So it doesn't sell very well. So we need to get out of that habit, because, I don't know, like, now that we're doing this, you know, for a living, it kind of does pay to meet some of the expectations, I suppose.
Make it a twist where the billionaire is the villain, but somehow the villain is also the hero because he's, like, trying to do the right thing, but just needs better direction on how to be good.
Yeah, it's pretty much always going to end up some way that he's not that
Good.
great.
I've actually got a plot outline now for a billionaire romance, quote unquote.
He's using bunny ear quotes.
Yeah, but I've totally got it in my head. It's all written down. I'm going to subvert the hell out of that trope, but I think I got it done in such a way that it's still going to hit the right buttons. I'm hoping, anyways.
Fair enough. I'm kind of on the
Please.
same page with my crazy 20s adventure. But it's hard to know what's going to hit the hot buttons and what's not going to, like, especially because I won't lie, I'm not the most avid reader because I really like writing it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm the
that's
same
the
way.
same with us. Like, we're so distracted by, like, everything else that goes on. Because, I mean, we have, like, the writing, but then we have everything else that takes up so much time that goes around the writing. So then it's like, I just don't want to stare at a screen anymore. Like, if I want to do something, I'm going to play video games or do something else. Like,
And I do like to read, but when I read, I don't usually like to read the same genres that I write in.
Yes, that's huge for me. I mostly read nonfiction.
Yeah. I was a historian for, like, you know, and, like, history is a thing I really like reading, but I don't want to write any history stuff. That was boring as fuck when I was doing it. Like, and, like, we did, like, well, a couple, another one being, was it Theodore's Descent? Just took place in the 19th century. It was it's a horror, although it does have some monster sex in it. Back on the monster erotica topic, but yeah, no, that in the 1920s erotic thriller mystery, those were like the only two historical things we did, and it's like, you know, I like that too. But.
yeah. It didn't play, like, a huge role, but, I mean, researching for The Mistress, which is our 1920s book, was, like, really fun, because, I mean, just stupid things like, okay, does she have a zipper? Is that a thing that she would have? It just forces you to kind of, like, think about the mundane.
How do
Yeah.
bras work in the 20s?
Right?
Yeah, we had to research that.
Yep. I really like that stuff. That's actually... And also, we use a lot of slang, especially about sex. And I love getting into, like, linguistics and the evolution of slang over time and stuff like that.
Yeah. Although, the further we went back with, like, the Theodore's Descent, I decided that it was probably not a good idea to get too wrapped up in the language thing, because the way that the story worked was she ended up encountering people that were, like, subterranean people from, like, earlier times who had kind of been cut off underneath the ground. It was like, and they had, like, an older language, and I'm like, really can't have people speaking Middle English and shit in this novel. Like, that's not gonna fly.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Seems like a good call.
Yeah.
So do we have anything else?
Do we
Josh
cover-
always has a list of
I
things.
do.
Yay!
So prepared. But I think that's pretty much it. We discussed the book sale, right?
I don't think. Well, we mentioned it in passing, but
Yes.
Emmy is doing a promotion with us. It's up on our blog, and if you've subscribed to our mailing list, that got sent out as a blast. So we all have a bunch of books for sale in honor of Halloween. And did you want to talk a bit about your book?
Sure. My book is actually 2 short kind of novelettes written by myself and one of my really dear friends and writing partners. And it's actually the kickoff to a series, but it's a very, like, open-ended, browsy kind of series. The book is for sale. It's 99 cents. It's never going to be more. You can, go out and buy it. It has the 2 stories, one from her, one from me. And the plot line, like, we have a overarching collaborative plot line that we're telling with the series, but we are working it out so that you can read any of the books and still progress through it, or you can kind of wander through only the ones that seem interesting or stick with one writer or the other. So it's very open-ended. But we have this really awesome fantasy world that we built together based on sort of like Grimm's fairy tales and all those awesome
Nice.
fantasy movies from the 80s that everybody loves, like Labyrinth and Legend and The Dark Crystal, and
Reminds us of
also
Project We Did.
kinky sex.
Which is always good in books. I think if you add kinky sex to any book, it's probably going to become better.
Yes.
Yeah.
Maybe not like The Diary of Anne Frank. Probably not.
It's not kinky, but there's actually kind of already a proto-sex scene in there. It's an age-appropriate for the character's sex scene.
Yeah.
Just saying.
I actually remembered that. So we have Theodora's Descent up for sale, which is for 99 cents, and that's our underground psychological horror novel. It's long. It's probably one of our longest stories.
Yeah.
And it follows Theodora as she kind of makes her way through the underworld of complete horror. And it has a romance subplot, which is probably one of our more fucked up romance subplots.
It's really fucked up.
Yeah, so a lot of people have seemed to really like it. This is one of our stories where, the people who love it really love it. It doesn't have a mass appeal, but the ones who've read it and get it, they are super hardcore into it. So that's up for 99 cents. And as well, we have 2 shorts up, Bad Wolf Be Good and Bad Wolf on the Run. They are about werewolves.
Yep. That's part of our fairy tale series that we had like an ongoing thing similar to what you described.
Right on. Awesome.
So, mostly it's just a vehicle for sex, but fantasy sex. Fairy tale sex.
I wish Amazon would let you write has the most romantic subplot we've written so far, because that would sell me on a book.
Yeah, so that's another thing. We actually got quoted in Bitch Magazine in the fall episode, or issue. Because we were talking about the censorship of Amazon and how it's affecting booksellers, and one of our biggest points was that we can't warn people what's in our books anymore. We can't put trigger warnings on our books. And I find that personally really upsetting, because I'd rather people be able to find it and know to avoid it than to feel like I have to kind of not tell them what's in it. I mean, I know there's a lot of books like that are extreme and they don't have trigger warnings and stuff, but I'm a child of the internet and I understand that this is important to a lot of people and to not, triggering a lot of painful memories. I mean, I don't want to be responsible for that. So we always had trigger warnings, but now we can't.
Yeah, it's upsetting.
So, but it's just another way that our blurbs have to be prettied up and nobody knows what they're getting anymore.
Right. Yeah. And we can't be transparent.
No.
Yeah. Because they won't be transparent or consistent.
No, and I mean, if you say somewhere else, it's such a shady kind of system that we don't know that if we put it anywhere else, they might find it on another site and say, oh, well, you have trigger warnings here and that has content that we don't like and blah, blah, blah. But I mean, a lot of novels have, violence and assault and terrible stuff. And
yes.
I mean, I don't understand why we couldn't move more towards warning people about that rather than just anticipating that everybody's going to be fine with gore.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm really not a gore fan myself when it comes to every Halloween, every October we do big movie marathons stuff with. I love scary movies. I love video games too. I love scary video games. I love the hell out of stuff like Amnesia, Outlast. But I'm not a big fan of gore. Gore to me is just
Yeah, I can't do torture. Even in the newest season of Game of Thrones, there was some torture scenes in it, and I just couldn't watch.
I gave up on Game of Thrones for different reasons, but yeah, it's that show. It pushes my limits. I don't like a lot of really heavy. I don't mind violence, but I don't like gore. And when it comes to horror, I'd much rather have psychological horror.
Yeah, same. I love psychological horror.
Do you guys watch old 60s horror movies? Because they're pretty much where it's at for, especially British ones, because they're pretty badass when it comes to psychological horror.
If you've got suggestions, give them to us. We will get it, and we will watch that shit.
Yes. Nice. Wait, The Collector. Have you ever seen The Collector?
The Collector.
I don't think so.
It's kind of fantastic. It starts off with a guy who drives around in a van and he kidnaps a girl off the street, and then he locks her in, a little room he's prepared at his house. And it tells their beautiful story.
Oh, that's charming.
He's writing it down, so.
It's a horror movie, so it's good.
It sounds like it.
All right, so I think we'll probably wrap things up.
Okay.
Yep. Thanks for listening.
Wish me luck with piecing this together and making it sound awesome.
Good luck, and thank you ever so much for having me.
Thanks for joining us. It was awesome to meet another awesome erotica writer who seems to have a lot in common with us.
Yeah.
Yay, holla.
I always feel like such a outsider sometimes because it's I know I write really messed up stuff and I like really messed up stuff, and it's I feel like I'm so stubborn because I know what it probably takes to become a huge success, but I just don't want to do it because I want to write my fucked up stories.
I'm with you. I want to write my fucked up stories too.
All right, mental high five.
Woo!
Yeah.
Woo! All right, thanks for joining us.
Bye.
Bye.